Okay, Boker Tov, good morning. It's wonderful to see everybody. And I weren't sure anybody was going to show up, so it's nice to see such a crowd. And we're very excited to start this new learning opportunity every week. It's a beautiful day out, so maybe moving forward we'll actually do it in the backyard as we can enjoy our magnificent winter down here. So the idea was to do as follows, that on Wednesday mornings to get together for a short period of time. This is not like an hour and a half big thing, half hour to 45 minutes. And to focus on a topic of emunah. And I really struggled with what exactly we should learn. At the Cup of Joe on Wednesday mornings, with the men after Minyan, although women are certainly invited as well, we've been doing Sha'arim B'Tefillah of Rav Pinkus. It's very inspiring, and it focuses on emunah. But I didn't want to do the same thing. You can listen to that online. So I was thinking what else to do. And I decided, at least for now, that rather than lock ourselves into one text, to maybe try to find something else every week. It could be on the Parsha, maybe it'll be relevant to a holiday that's coming up, maybe relevant to a world event that's going on, but to find things every week, and just to learn a unit each week, which is separate, so you don't have to, if you miss a week, you can continue to come. So I found this beautiful insight of the Slonim Rebbe for this week, on this week's Parsha, where he deals with the topic of emunah. I think it's really important to talk about emunah. We've been doing this series on Shabbos afternoon, and now this, and Sha'arim B'Tefillah, because we all struggle with it. I think one of the challenges in particular in our community, and I'm using the term our community as loosely the modern Orthodox community, whichever segment of it you identify with, but we're very proud of being intellectuals. We have philosophical discussions and high-level learning, and we use fancy terms like ontological and axiomatic and theology. We try to impress one another, and we lose the basics. And the basics for ourselves to get through the day, and the basics, especially for our children in this very, very confusing world, is emunah. The very basics is what we call emunah pshuta. The idea that there's a creator of the universe, that he continues to have providence and dominion over his world, that he has expectations of us, that he craves a relationship with us, that when we embrace him and welcome him into our lives are much richer and much stronger and much more fulfilling. And I don't mean to simplify. There are a lot of challenges with emunah, because you want to believe in Hashem, but people have experienced things in life that make it very difficult to believe in Hashem. Leave us with all kinds of questions. Hashem, where were you? If you exist and if you love me as you claim to, and the rabbis teach me to believe about you, then where were you? And why are you doing this to me? So the goal is not to oversimplify emunah and to pretend that it's such an easy thing. I'll just tell you a quick anecdote in that regard. I may have mentioned it in the afternoon class. The Sefer, the Garden of Emunah, which is a valuable Sefer. Rav Shalom Arush, translated by Rabbi Lezer Brody. It's a valuable book. I would never say a negative word about it. In fact, a few summers ago, when I was really into this topic, Yocheved and I went to go meet with Rabbi Arush. That's a whole story in its own right. The book understand that the book represents a very hardcore philosophy, extreme philosophy of Breslov when it comes to emunah. So the book starts with this, I'm sure maybe everyone here has read it, some have read it. The book starts with this story about the person who's running late for their flight, and they miss their flight, and they're devastated as they get to the airport. They were so eager to get home to be with their children, and they miss the flight, and it's so sad until the plane is hijacked or blows up in the air or has a terrible crash landing. And you see, emunah, Hashem has a plan, Hashem takes care of you, there's always a reason. So when we met with Arush, I said, it's a lovely story, but that's not emunah. It's easy to have emunah when you missed your flight and it turned out the flight crashed. What about the person who was on standby and wasn't supposed to be on that plane? And the only reason they made it on that plane was because you were late. What about the wife and children of that person who was on standby who died because they made the flight? That's emunah. Emunah is not when everything's going great. That's easy. To see Hashem in your life, to reach out to Him, to desire Him, to long for Him, to work in a relationship with Him when you're in a moment of challenging time, that's emunah. That's real emunah. So there's a lot to talk about emunah, but again, rather than be kind of scattered, and let's take a topic, and I have found that this is the way emunah works, for me personally. Like the Mesilas Yesharim writes in his introduction. There are certain things that we all know, there are certain things that are basic or obvious, but they bear repeating over and over and over again. Because we live in a world of clouded judgment and distraction and temptation, and it's just so easy to forget about the most important principles in life. The Ramchal of Moshe Chaim Luzzatto begins Mesilas Yesharim by saying something no author of any book has ever written before, because you don't sell a lot of books when you say this in the introduction. He says, I'm about to say nothing new. Everything in my book you know. Everything in my book has been written before. I have nothing new to add. Right? Nobody's ever written that in an introduction before. And he says, but why am I writing it? Because it bears repeating. And if you plan to read my book once and put it on a bookcase to gather dust, don't bother reading it at all. This book will only have value, says the Ramchal, if you read it over and over and over again. Because what we're missing, whether it has to do with not eating the chocolate cake or working on our anger or emunah, we're not missing the ideas, we're missing the awareness, the mindfulness. And so emunah too takes mindfulness. There's a language of Hashem among ourselves and with our children. There's a language of, oh, look how good Hashem is to us. We found that parking spot. Oh, look how that worked out. It didn't rain and we were able to do what we wanted to do. Oh, did you thank Hashem? You know, when we try to remind our children to make a bracha before eating, it's not, did you make a bracha? It's like this punishment. Did you brush your teeth? Did you make a bracha? It's, did you thank Hashem? You're about to eat His food. Did you thank Hashem? You love that candy. Did you thank Hashem for that delicious candy you're about to eat? There is a language of emunah whose whole goal is to promote and increase a sense of mindfulness, that He's in our life, that He is a pivotal, central part of our life, that we owe everything to Him, that we need Him and rely on Him, that we have to have a sense of gratitude to Him. Okay, so for this week, let's try to see how far as we get in this piece in the Slonimer Rebbe. The Nesiva Shalom is written by the Slonimer Rebbe, Shalom Noach Berzovsky, Zatzal, passed away. The previous Slonimer Rebbe is the Rebbe in Yerushalayim. The Slonimer Rebbe is well known for his ability to have taken mystical concepts and deep ideas and to communicate them in an accessible way that anybody can access them. He was brilliant, and his Nesiva Shalom, which is written not only on the 5 books of Chumash, but written on a myriad of different topics, is something which is wonderful. I used to enjoy going to his Tish in Yerushalayim, because when you go to a Hasidic Tish, it's packed with bleachers and thousands of Hasidim, and Hasidim believe in this concept, which is a little difficult to understand if you weren't raised with it, but they believe in the concept of Shirayim. That if the Rebbe is a tzaddik, if he's a righteous person, and he ate from the food is now transformed to have some holiness, some residual effect of the Rebbe's holiness. So everybody can get access to that food. You're going to have contact with that holiness. So you go to other tishes, and there's a lot of, if you go in Elul, for example, the Rebbe dips challah in the honey, and then a chassid dips his hand in the honey, and the next chassid grabs off his hand, and off his finger, and off his hand. So if you're like, you don't have to be OCD to be a little bit, But the Slonimer Rebbe is the only tish I ever went to that had plates and forks. They took the Rebbe's food, they cut it, you got a little plate with a little fork, and you had some shirayim from the Rebbe. So that's the only tish I ever ate shirayim. Anyway, so this is the Slonimer Rebbe. So he says the following. At the end of our parsha, we're introduced to Avram Avinu in this week's parsha, in Lech Lecha. Anyone not get? Anyone know? We're introduced to Avram Avinu. And, you need? Avram Avinu discovers Hashem. Why is it not mentioned in the Torah? Is its own story. We already have the story of many of the tests of Avram already take place in our parsha, even before our parsha. The episode where he is challenged to abandon his faith and he's thrown into the fiery furnace. We have the episode of the War of the 4 Kings and the 5 Kings, where Avram rises to the occasion, in order to rescue his nephew Lot. And after all of that, God turns to Avram and he says, "Don't worry, I've got your back." So says the Rebbe the following, quotes the pasuk: "Achar advarim ha'ila hayadvar Hashem al Avram b'machazeh lemor." After all these things, Avram passes the test of Lech Lecha. He leaves everything he knows and everything he's familiar with, and he is the Avram. He's the Ivri. He's on the other side of the world as everybody else. He's taking the unpopular position on things. Why? Because he's choosing to stick with God, even while others have abandoned him. He survives Lech Lecha, and he survives the Kivshan Ha'esh, and he survives the War of the 4 Kings, the 5 Kings, and God comes to Avram in a vision. And he says, "Al tira Avram, don't be afraid. Anochi magen lach. I'm going to be your magen." What's a magen? I'm going to be your shield. I'm going to be your protector. Scharcha harbe ma'od. Your reward is great. That's the pasuk towards the end of this week's parsha. What's familiar about that word magen? If you think of Avram and you think of the word magen, what should come to mind immediately? The bracha in Shemona Esrei, and this is where it's from. The bracha, magen Avraham, is from this pasuk. God says, "I will be your shield, I will be your protector, I will have your back." And that's what we daven every day, to tap into that same bracha, that same blessing, that God have our back. So he quotes the Sefer Ber Avraham, who is from a previous Slonimer Rebbe, Dine Avram Avinu haya mesari la'achar kol hanisim hagedolim she'asa imo HaKadosh Baruch Hu b'or kasdim u'v'melchemes dalad malachim. Avram was scared. Why? When things are going, sometimes the scariest moment is when things are going too well in life. When everything seems to be working, and you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. And you say, everyone in my family's healthy, I have a roof over my head, I have a livelihood, my kids are giving me nachas, I have grandchildren. Like, when am I going to get the bad news? I'm just waiting and waiting and waiting. When is the phone call? When is the diagnosis? When is the bad news? When is it's too good to be true, something's going to happen. And sometimes those are the scariest moments. You're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So that's Avram. Avram has survived these difficult moments, and he's waiting for the other. He's very afraid that he's used up all of his merit, and that there's no chance of his continuing to get bracha. Pen yagia lo ayidei zeh hitzroma masalev v'yavo chas v'shalom l'zachos hadas. So Avram is worried, and what is he worried about? Says the Slonim Rebbe, that Avram's going to get arrogant. If everything's going your way, God makes you promises, you rise to the occasion and you pass your tests, you're gaining influence and prominence and prestige and wealth, at some point that's going to go to your head. And Avram's worried, if everything keeps going my way, I'm going to get arrogant. And when I get arrogant, who am I going to forget? That's all of Sefer Dvarim, is Moshe telling them. When you go in the land and you work the land and you harvest the land and you get wealthy, don't forget God. When you need it to rain and you're desperate for a livelihood, that's when you pray with all your heart. When everything's good and you're high and mighty, it's really easy to forget God. So Avram's worried he's going to forget God. Sheyidme benafsho shem HaKadosh Baruch Hu ozer lo kol kach mistama roi hu lezeh. And it's easy to say to yourself, if I have everything in my life, must be because I'm great. I'm wonderful. I'm Mr. Wonderful, Mrs. Wonderful. I got everything going for me. I'm doing everything right, and that's why God's giving me everything. And that's what Avram is worried about. So what does Avram do? He cloaks himself with awe and reverence for Hashem. What is the antidote to arrogance? What is the antidote to forgetting Hashem? Mindfulness of Hashem. Awe and reverence of Hashem. Seeing Hashem in everything. The sun rises very late these days. Or at this period of the year, you wake up at 7 a.m. and it's pitch black out, which is very debilitating in some ways. But it also provides an opportunity. Go watch the sunrise. We have the sunrise minyan once a month, and the genesis of it was a bunch of years ago. At one point I realized we live near the beach on the East Coast. We have the opportunity to see the sunrise. So I woke my kids up really early one morning. It was not this time of year. And I said, let's go watch the sunrise. And we sat on the beach and we watched the sunrise. I said, maybe other people would be interested in this. Let's try a sunrise minyan. And it took off from there. But watch the sunrise. It's a magnificent thing to see. You want awe and reverence. You want awareness of Hashem. Watch the sun rise. Go to the what's it called? The newborn thing in the hospital. Neonatal unit, or even go to the nursery. You want to see God. You want to see miracles before your very eyes. Read, understand science, understand the world, see what's happening. The antidote to forgetting Hashem is taking the steps to be mindful of Hashem. Don't read the news as an agnostic. Read the news looking to see the hand of Hashem. Live life looking to see the hand of Hashem. The famous joke. I've said it before about the guy who's late for an interview and he's in Manhattan and he's desperate for a parking spot and he's circling and circling and circling and there's no parking spot. So he pulls over, he says, God, I'm late to this interview. I need this job. I'll do anything. If you help me find the parking spot, I'll never speak Lashon Hara. I'll make it to Minyan. I'll be perfect mitzvah. I'll do everything. And just then, the spot right in front of the building where he has the interview opens up. And the man looks up and he says, never mind, God, I found one. Right? So, that's all of us in life, right? It's a great joke, but that's all of us in life. I need you, Hashem, I need you, Hashem, I need you, Hashem. And when everything works well, then we went to the Blind Museum in Israel this past summer. I don't know if anyone's been there. You were at the Blind Museum. You can't say the bracha of Pokeach Ivrim in the morning, that God, you open the eyes of the blind, the same way. When you experience what it means to be blind for an hour, blind sheba blind, like pitch black. Whatever you're picturing is black, now, times a million, that black. And then you come out and you see and you go, wow, the gift of sight is a miracle. And it's not Magiali. Who says I'm entitled to wake up in the morning and see? Who says I'm entitled to wake up in the morning and breathe? Who says I'm entitled to wake up in the morning and my feet work and my ears work and my eyes work? Who says I'm entitled to wake up in the morning and my bladder works? These are gifts. We have a bracha asher yatsa. All of Torah and all of halacha is designed to promote a mindfulness and awareness that God is in your life and that we have blessing. So this may sound crude, but you come out of the bathroom and you say, wow, I'm so grateful that went well. I'm so grateful that could happen. People who have catheters, or people who have colostomies, or people who have, GI issues, what they would give to be able to have going to the bathroom be an incidental part of their day, what they would give their right arm to have going to the bathroom be a nothing for part of the day they don't even remember. So we, for whom everything is so, please God, simple and straightforward and easy, Asher Yatzar. Asher Yatzar is not there to make you look weird, in front of other people because you're mumbling something, you come out of it. Asher Yatzar is a bracha to say, be mindful. It just went well. It didn't have to. And it doesn't always have to. And if you want it to keep going well, acknowledge it. Say thank you. Have a mindfulness of God in our lives. So Avram is worried that everything's going so well, he's going to forget God. And what's the antidote? What does he start to do? He works on his Yirah Shamayim. He tries to have a mindfulness, an awe, a reverence for Hashem in his life. Sha'ayidei shemis'or balibo godel hayira, by in his heart arousing the sense of greatness, the awe of God, mispatelas mimenu zachos hadas. Omnam HaKadosh Baruch Hu Amar Lo, but God says to Avram, Al tira Avram, don't worry, you don't have to have that fear. Ein chatzarach le'echos b'midas hayira kidei lihinatzel mizachos hadas. You don't have to embrace fear of me, awe of me. Ki lecha yesh eitza acheres. I have another suggestion for you. And you know what it is? Anochi magein lach. I am your shield. Hainu sharei kol anisim she'asisi imcha hayu mikoach habitachon shehayu lecha she'anochi magein u'mechaseh lach. All the miracles I did for you, Avram, came about as a result of your bitachon that you had, that I'm going to come through, that I am your shield. And because you live life with that bitachon, because you live life with that calm understanding that I have your back, you have incredible reward. And what's the great reward? The Slonim Rebbe is playing off the pasuk. The pasuk ended, Scharcha harbe ma'od. Your reward is great. Normally we translate the word ma'od as great. But ma'od is also a reference, says the Slonim Rebbe, to the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah there says, Ma'od ma'od have shval ruach. You should be exceedingly humble. It doesn't just say ma'od one time. Be humble. Ma'od ma'od. Be exceedingly humble. Da'af shescharcha harbe, even though your reward is great, Avram, meaning, I do miracles for you because you rely on and have faith and depend on me. Shakadosh Baruch Hu nosen lecha harbe, ein ze mevi li zachos hadas elo lema'od l'shiflos haruach. Don't worry, Avram. You keep relying on me, I'll keep doing the miracles for you, and it won't make you arrogant, it will do the opposite. When you see that submitting to God and conceding to God and an awareness and mindfulness of God and a gratitude to God yields richness and meaning and purpose and fulfillment and miracles in your life, you won't become arrogant as a result, you become more humbled. You become more humbled by that awareness. Shemata yodeh shekol kochacha hu rak mikoch bitchoncha shekadosh baruch hu mageinu machselach as kol anisam she'asisi imcha meviim rak l'shiflos ruach. The reward, Hashem says, is, if you stick with me, you won't get arrogant, you'll be more humbled. And this, says the Slonim Rebbe, is what we're doing when we end the first bracha of the Amidah. Magein Baruch Ata Hashem, Magein Avraham. Blessed are you, Hashem, the shield of Avraham, from our pasuk. She'Avram Avinu avar es kol hanisyonos, ves kol ha'ma'oros mitoch bitachon shekadosh baruch hu magino u'mechaseu. How did Avram find the superhuman strength to overcome what he did? How did he find that capacity? He did it because he had faith in Hashem. And so when we make that bracha every day, Magein Avraham, God, you are the shield of Avraham, Hashem was only the shield of Avraham, reciprocating for the faith Avram put in Hashem. So says the Slonim Rebbe, what we're really saying in that bracha is, give me that faith in you. Help me find the strength to rely and depend on you. There's a great book I once read called Survivor's Club. I highly recommend it. I don't remember the name of the author.
Survival or
The Survivors Club. The author goes through a lot of examples of survival, whether it's survivors of cancer and illness, survivors of the Holocaust, survivor of a plane crash, survivors of whatever it is, survivors of different things, and tried to study what predisposes somebody to survive. What made this person more likely to overcome illness? What made this person more likely to survive the Holocaust? Not to assign any blame. What made this person more likely to make it through the plane crash? There are fascinating anecdotes in it. It's a very cute book. It's a very interesting book. For example, Chavod and I are both lefties. Lefties have a shorter lifespan than righties. Did you know that?
What?
Yeah, it's in the book.
Lefties have a shorter lifespan than righties. Not because anything genetic.
Right there, it's 94.
Oh, there you go. Not because of anything genetic in lefties, but because the world is designed for righties, so there's a lot more accidents and incidents and problems lefties. That's cute. I'll tell you another cute anecdote it has there. Where is the safest place on earth to have a heart attack?
In the hospital.
Wrong. The hospital is one of the worst places.
No, they don't.
You could drop dead in the hallway of the hospital, the staircase. Nobody will notice you for.
The whole shul is loaded with doctors.
You know where the safest place in the world to have a heart attack is? Statistically, after studies. I'm not telling you should go there for this purpose, but is a casino. Because casinos have cameras everywhere, and they're watching everybody, and if you drop in a casino, they'll be on you faster than anywhere. Anyway, it's a cute book. But in addition to being cute, it's based on real research, and it is really, really fascinating. So you know what he concludes? He's a Jewish guy, the author of the book, and he describes in the beginning of the book, what? Ben Sherwood, that's his name. So he describes in the beginning of the book that he is not a person of faith. That he doesn't know if he believes in God, he's certainly not a person of practice. But by the end of the book he writes, I'm sorry to spoil alert, I'll give you the end of the book, but by the end of the book he writes, he concludes that you know what predisposes some to survive more than others? Faith. Faith gives you the strength to survive. Because without faith you give up, you have despair. Without faith you think there's absolutely no way. When I was reading the book, there was an incident of 2 NFL players who were boating and the boat capsized. This was a bunch of years ago. It's got to go back 7, 8 years ago.
In Tampa Bay.
Yeah. And one of them survived and the other drowned.
Yeah.
And they asked the one who survived, he hung on to a piece of wood in the middle of the cold ocean until he was found. And they asked him why he survived. And he said, every time I wanted to give up and let go, I pictured my children. And I thought about God, and I just held on I had faith. If I wait another moment with faith, they're going to come and rescue. Every time I was ready to give up, I just said, I just need to get through one more minute, and I have faith this will all be okay. So, I don't mean to suggest that, if you have faith, you beat cancer. If you have faith, you survive the Holocaust. If you have faith, you walk away from the plane crash. It's obviously not that simple. But here's a researcher who began by saying he doesn't have faith and concludes that the ingredient that predisposes you towards survival is faith. Magen Avram, we say this bracha every day, and in that bracha what we're saying is, God, you are Avram's shield, I want you to protect me. Whatever challenge I have in life, some they're major and some they're minor. But whatever the issue is, Hashem, I need you to protect me. And I recognize that you will protect me, you will reciprocate when I rely on you, when I put my faith in you, when I have hope in you, when I'm mindful of you. That's what the pasuk says. God says to Avram, I am your shield. Hashem, Avram always relied on Hashem. And with that strength, that got him through everything. Now the Meshech Chochmah says, I reserve the right to repeat this again, maybe at the Shir on Shabbos, so I forget it by Shabbos. But the Meshech Chochmah says, what's the definition of dveikus? We have a mitzvah of dveikus, to be davek, to stick to Hashem. How do you fulfill? What does that mean, stick to God? Avram is described as being tamim, as being wholesome, as sticking to Hashem. What does it mean to stick to Hashem? So the Meshech Chochmah, Rav Meir Simcha B'Tinsk, says, what's the modern word devek mean? It means glue. Dveikus is sticking to Hashem. Your first day of school, a kid goes to a new school where they know nobody, they know one person. And they're really nervous. How will I know where to go, and how will I fit in, and what do I do when, and where do I... So the one kid they know says, stick with me, and you'll be okay. Just stick with me. Follow me, stick with me, and you'll be okay. You go to work the first time, you know one person. You go to shul the first time, you know one person. You're nervous, what will be, how it'll go. And the person says, stick with me. So Hashem looks at us and He says, stick with me. I want you to stick with me. That's Tvekas. And that's what Avram did. Just stick with me. Whatever you're going through, stick with me. And the benefits are unbelievable. The calm that you feel is unbelievable. You're all worried, will they find their seats? What's going to happen? What if it rains? The tent, the parking, how's it going to work? Just stick with Hashem. Just, you do your best effort. And once you do your best effort, everyone has a responsibility to do their best effort. Right? You're sick. You can't sit on the couch and say, I'm going to stick with Hashem. I don't need to go to the doctor. A living? I don't need to make a living. I'm sticking with Hashem. Somebody's going to leave a brown paper bag of money at my doorstep. Like, that's foolish. That's not emunah. That's not bitachon. We have to do our hishtadlus. We have to do our effort. But once our effort is done, once we've done everything that we can, then anxiety is just, it's actually, anxiety is a statement of heresy. The Chazon Ish writes in Emunah and Bitachon. The Chazon Ish says, worrying is denying God's existence. Right? He's talking to a Jewish audience here. He's worrying is denying God's existence. Because what are you saying when you worry? You're saying, I don't really believe that God's in control. I don't really believe that it's going to work out. I don't really believe that whatever happens will be for the best. I'm worried. Now, we can worry about ourselves. We can worry that we won't produce the way we need to produce. We could worry about our success. But once we've done everything we can, if you worry about God's side, it's just going to take years off your life. It's just going to ruin the present because you're worried about the future. You're just giving up the moment. You're giving up your health. You're giving up relationships. You're giving up serenity. The greatest gift of a life of Emunah is the serenity it provides. The peacefulness of saying, I'm going to do the best I can. Beyond that, it'll be what it'll be. Hashem's in charge. Hashem's in charge and it'll be what it'll be. And you're overcome with this feeling of peacefulness. And it's in a lot of different circumstances. I mentioned a few weeks ago in the afternoon class on Emunah. This when I was studying a few summers ago about Emunah, and I had been driving back from somewhere, and I had to stop in a very bad neighborhood on the highway to get gas, and I got out of the car, and there was a chevra there that didn't look so friendly, and I was like, for a second, I was really worried. It was a bad neighborhood, and I was on the way back from a wedding. I was dressed in a suit. I was a good candidate if you wanted to take someone's wallet. That would be me. So I got out of the car, and I was a little bit nervous. I'm filling the car with gas, and I'm a little bit nervous. And all of a sudden I realized, at the time I was studying Emunah, I was working on that Shabbos Shuvah Drasha and Emunah, and I said, what am I doing? I'm talking about Emunah, I'm preaching Emunah, and here I am worried. And all of a sudden I realized, I don't have a choice. I was out of gas. I had to stop here. And once I stopped here, it's up to Hashem. It'll be fine. It'll be what it'll be. And I can't describe to you the relief, the feeling of calm, how good it felt to let go and let God, to say, you know what? It'll be what it'll be. Hashem's going to Magen Avraham. Hashem was Avraham's shield, and He's going to shield me. And whatever happens will be to the best for me. So there's so many positive byproducts of living a life of Emunah. For your physical health, mental and emotional health, for your relationships, stop nagging about your worry and anxiety and fear and uncertainty and doubt. Who are you alienating with all that worry and anxiety and fear and doubt? Because nobody wants to be around negative energy of things that you can't control. It just sucks the life out of the room and out of the people in your life. So a life of Emunah, of saying, I'm going to do the best I can, and beyond that, like Avram, I'm going to rely on Hashem, and He will reciprocate. And so we have an opportunity 3 times a day, or however many times you daven, a whole good discussion for women, the halachas of women davening, but however many times you daven, you say the bracha, Magen Avraham. What you're saying is, Hashem, you are Avram's shield, be my shield. You are Avram's shield because he put his faith in you, I'm putting my faith in you. Avram lived with that mindfulness and that awareness and the resulting serenity, and I want the same thing. V'zeh mashmaos chasimas habracha harishona, she keneged Avram, b'lashon Magen Avraham, Hashem midas habitachon shahaysa lo. Why did Avram merit? We don't say Yitzchak or Yaakov's name. We say Elokei Avram Yitzchak Yaakov, Elokei Avram Elokei Yitzchak Yaakov, but then we only conclude a bracha giving the merit to Avram. Magen Avram. We don't say Magen Yitzchak, Magen Yaakov. Why just Avram? So the Rebbe says, because Avram introduced us to this concept of bitachon. And Avram needed it. It took an enormous amount of faith, a leap of faith, to break his father's idols, to say, throw me in the fiery furnace, and to stand up on soapboxes all over the world and say, you're worshiping pagans, you're fools. You're bowing down to idols and the sun, the moon, and the stars, you're morons. There's one God, and this is what He needs from us. And you can't see Him, or smell Him, or touch Him, or feel Him, but trust me, He's there. He was Avram HaIvri. He was on the other side of everything. You know what courage that takes? You know how much faith it takes to be true to what you believe and what you think? Because you're relying on Hashem, you're sticking with Him, and you're trusting He will stick with you. And that's why we end the bracha, Magen Avram. We're tapping into that amount of bitachon emunah He showed. V'yesh levar shaychas inyan habitachon b'miyuchad la'Avram Avinu. Why is bitachon connected specifically to Avram? Dehine matzino beis inyanim she'midas Avram Avinu. We find two qualities that are the hallmarks of Avram. Ha'emunah shahaya rosh l'chol ha'ma'aminim. Avram was the head of all of those people who have emunah. Right? He introduced us to ethical monotheism. Right? That's the fancy philosophical term, monotheism. You want to know what the other term is? Emunah. He introduced emunah to the world. Not emunah in idols, not emunah in things, but emunah in Hashem. He is the father of emunah. V'chein midas hachesed v'ya'ava. And the other characteristic of his is kindness and love. Kamo denikra Avram Oavai. V'inyan habitachon yisodo mibeis inyanim elu. So to live a life of bitachon is the combination of these two qualities, emunah and chesed. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, she'i mitzvahs ha'amanas Hashem. The first of the 10 commandments is Anochi Hashem Elokecha. God introduces Himself to us and He says, nice to meet you. I am the God, I am the God who took you out of Egypt. Nice to meet you. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Where's the mitzvah in God's introduction? Some actually say that that's not a mitzvah. There are commentaries who say that that's not the first of the 10 commandments. That's not a commandment at all. That's a prerequisite to commandments. I'm God. The commandments really begin with the next one. But most people understand Anochi Hashem Elokecha is the first of the 10 commandments. And what's the commandment? For us to acknowledge and be mindful of Hashem Elokecha. There is a creator of the world. We didn't come from nowhere. Just like we have biological parents, if you trace that back, they had parents, they had parents, they had parents, there is a first cause in the universe. Shekol b'zebeis chalakim. Included in this are two things. Anochi Hashem, that I am God. Ha'emunah shabori is baruch shemahu borei umanig asav osei, that God is the creator of the universe who continues to will creation. V'gam she'anochi Elokecha. But He doesn't just say, nice to meet you, Anochi Hashem. Hi, I want to give you 10 dibros. Here are my expectations of you, and you should follow them because Anochi Hashem. I am the God of the universe. There's another word. Not only Anochi Hashem, what's the next word? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. Kadosh Baruch Hu Elokecha. Ha'elokim shalcha. Sheben kach uben kach nikru banim. Whether you recognize me or not, whether you embrace me or not, I am your Father. I am your God. I have a personal, intimate relationship with you. I didn't just create a world and move on to my next project. There are people who believe in a creator, but they don't believe the creator has providence in their lives. God created the universe. It's too much sophistication, too much detail. There's too much. I've studied physics and chemistry and biology. I believe there's a creator. I believe there's a first cause. But I also believe He moved on. There was a creator of my house, and there was a painter of the painting, and there was a sculptor of the sculpture, and there's a person who designed my clothing and made my watch. But I don't have a relationship with them. They made those things and they moved on. And maybe we live in a world where God did the same. There are people who believe in God but don't believe He's involved in their life or that they have a relationship. So Slomo Rebbe says that's not our belief. Anochi Hashem, God says, I want you to know that not only am I God, I didn't move on. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am God, I created everything, and I am involved in your life. Kadosh Baruch Hu Elokecha Elokim Shalcha. Sheben kach uben kach nikru banim. V'zeh yesod bitachon. This is the foundation, the essence of bitachon. Sheyehudi samoch ubatuach ba'avas Hashem elav. To live life knowing Hashem loves us. We don't talk about it enough. For some reason, we gave this away. We let the Christians take it and put it on their bumper stickers. But it's ours. Hashem loves us. And you know how you know He loves you? Because you're sitting here right now. You woke up this morning. Your legs work, your eyes work, your ears work. You have a roof over your head. You have food to put in your mouth. And you have greater technology with the ease of that. You live in the generation of the dishwasher and the washing machine. You know Hashem loves you. Hashem loves you in ways we take for granted every single day. But we shouldn't concede that to any other religion. That's ours. Hashem loves us. You know what the worst thing in the world is? Showering someone with your love and not feeling it's appreciated. Going above and beyond, taking care, being sensitive, caring for somebody, loving someone, and not having that love reciprocated, it's very painful. It could be, unfortunately, in a marriage. It could be with children. It could be with a good friend or coworkers. It is a miserable, miserable, miserable feeling, loving someone and not feeling the love back. Hashem loves us, Anila dodi v'dodi li, but it's a reciprocal love. He wants our love. Hashem doesn't have needs and He doesn't feel miserable. Of course, He's perfect. But, in our terminology, it's miserable. He wants us to love Him back. So, Anochi Hashem Elokecha, He introduces Himself to us as saying, don't think I created the world and moved on. I love you. I want to be close to you. Let's communicate. You talk to me, I'll talk to you, not verbally, but I'll communicate to you in other ways. Tell me what's going on in your life. Reach out to me and I'll be there to help. But I want the relationship. Elokecha, I'm your God. You know what else is amazing? You could alienate your parents, and your parents could stop talking to you, and your parents could throw you out of the house. You can't get rid of God no matter what you do. You could be off the derech, you could be on a different derech, you could deny God, you could claim you hate God, but He's going to stick with you as a loving Father who unconditionally loves you. He's Elokecha b'chol hamatzavim. Whatever's going on in your life and with whatever your feeling or attitude you have, He's going to love you. So, the certainty of living a life of mindfulness and awareness and faith and reliance on Hashem is predicated on these two things. Ha'emuna v'ha'ava shebein Yisrael aviyim shebashamayim. First you have to know God exists, and then you have to believe that He loves you, that you're worthy of His love, and that you deserve His love, that you could reach out to Him, that He wants to love you. So, Magia l'shleimus habitachon shebotech b'Hashem sheyanig oso mashetov avuro. Va'Avram Avinu mikoach ha'emunah shelo, Avram Avinu from the strength of his faith, u'mikoach ha'ava shelo, combined with his love, he not only received Hashem's love, but he reciprocated. He was a loving person. Achein hisigis shleimus hamadrega haru'uya shel bitachon. So bitachon is the combination of the knowledge of God's existence with loving Hashem back. When you love Hashem, when you're in love with Hashem, because you know Hashem, then you will live a life of serenity and peace. You will live a life of Magen Avraham. You'll feel His shield, His loving embrace, His warm hand. You'll feel the shade that He is providing for you. 2 more minutes, and then we're going to end on time. Yesh lichlos zos b'maymar Maran Saba Kadosh Malchavitz. The Mishnah in Avos says that Avram faced 10 tests and he withstood them all. So says this Rebbe, Ein Amida Elat Tefillah. What does the Mishnah mean when it says Amad Bekulam? That Avram withstood, he stood firm all 10 tests. Ein Amida Elat Tefillah. How did Avram get through these tests? Through prayer. Shekol Nisayon Avar Lo Ayadei Chipos Eitzos Uchadama. How did you overcome the tests? By going to speak to experts, by Googling, by taking steroids, by human growth hormone. How did Avram overcome these tests? Because he turned to Hashem in prayer and he said, with everything else I'm doing, Hashem, I need you for strength. Give me the strength to overcome these tests. So even within the recognition that Hashem was the one providing the tests, he said, Hashem, give me the strength to overcome this test. I'm dealing with a difficult family member. I'm dealing with, a possibly terrible diagnosis. I'm dealing with a challenge with my finances and putting food on my table. I'm dealing with whatever it is. Part of the effort that needs to be done is to say, Hashem. Not just, heal the illness or make the family member go away. Hashem, give me the strength to get through it. Give me the strength to endure. B'tokef u'behiras habitachon shitotzos behiras ha'emunah b'avas Hashem. Sha'idei zeh higia Avram Avinu l'shleimas habitachon aki b'cha chosmen magen Avraham. Through that commitment to asking Hashem, not just to solve the test, but to give the strength to endure through the test, that's the level of emunah and bitachon that earned Avram the place in Shemona Esrei, that every day we remember him as the paradigm as the father, the archetype of Emunah. And we tap into it. And here's the beauty. I'll end with this because we can't finish the piece. Feel free to take it with you. But you know what the incredible thing, what we're saying is Magen Avram? Here's the good news. We are Avram's children. We're his progeny. So, you know, there's actual studies. There's biological studies. Most of them done by Rabbi Tzvi Yehuda Zatzal, Chassi Yehuda's daughter, who's an expert in this area. She's published in it. But studies of second-generation Holocaust survivors, studying biological, how their parents' survival impacts them genetically. Genetically. It's an amazing thing, right? It's an incredible thing. How growing up as a second-generation survivor impacts you biologically, genetically. These are real science studies. So here's the good news. The moment you think, I can't do it. I don't have the strength to endure. I can't get through the tests. I'm not sure God exists. I struggle to welcome Him in my life. Here's the good news. We are the children of Avram Avinu. We share His genetics. We are His progeny. We not only descend from Him genetically, we descend from Him spiritually. And when we say that bracha, Magen Avraham, what we're saying is, Hashem, the same way Avram had that faith, I am his great-great-grandchild. Give me that strength. Help me get through that test. Give me that faith in you to live with the Magen Avram so that I am worthy of you reciprocating by providing that shield and that protection. So that is the Nesiv Shalom's insight on our Parsha, a little thought on Emunah, and that's the plan. Every Wednesday morning, a cup of coffee. Don't bother putting that down. Put out some food or something like that. Save the sweet stuff for the men. So but every Wednesday morning, every Wednesday morning a little coffee, a little injection, a boost of Emunah, because coming back full circle to the way we started, that's what it comes down to. Like the Mesilas Yesharim, like the Ramchal said, it's all mindfulness. I have to tell you, I am the most grateful person in this room for this year because it gives me the opportunity to remind myself. It's all mindfulness. If every Wednesday we have a little support group where we're trying to live with mindfulness of Hashem, hopefully that will impact the rest of our week. It'll probably fade by the next Wednesday, and that's why we'll meet again every Wednesday. So what we're studying about Emunah is even less important than the fact that we're studying Emunah because it will create the mindfulness. Have a great day. Challah Bake tomorrow night. Sign up. Plenty of room left.
No.